Earlier this year, the Deseret News Facebook page hosted a video explaining why members of the church stand when their general authorities, the 70s apostles and prophet, enter a room or enter a congregation. Let's take a look at what it had to say. So the video kind of already told us the answer of what it's trying to say. It said that members just do it. They do it of their own accord, of their own volition, because they want to, not for any other reason. And then it asks us why.
We stand out of respect.
It creates a unity.
We recognize and, in a way, sustain his calling of being the prophet.
Just show like we love you. You know, we honor you, we acknowledge you.
So we saw some reasons, and then they showed us a video montage of members standing. And I particularly like this, where they've totaled up the thousands of people that all stood while the prophet entered the stadium. And they really paint it as though this is just something that spontaneously happens. You know, all of these people, they just do it. No coercion, no convincing. No one had to tell them to stand. No one had to teach them this habit. It's not a learned thing. It's just what they do out of reverence and respect. That's what this video really wants you to take away. But is that true?
Wait just a minute now. Hold on. The correct figure attendance tonight is 49,089.
Sorry, the number was wrong. You see, Mormons are really big on statistics and numbers because those things they can put forward to kind of prove their legitimacy. But let's keep going. So the question is this phenomenon of members standing spontaneous, or is it something that the leaders actually tell members what to do? Well, something happened recently that was very educational on this question. In February of 2019, Apostle Gary Stevenson did an African tour. He stopped at several places on Africa and held a number of conferences. One of these was on the island off of Africa, Madagascar. And they streamed the video on YouTube, and so you could see the congregation before he arrived, and you could see that they were all seated. And when he arrived, as you're seeing here, everybody in the congregation was sitting down, and they hadn't been prepped to know exactly when he was going to arrive and know how to do what they were supposed to do. And then we can see how that got corrected. And the way it got corrected was that rather than enter the room and go straight to the front, the apostle and his sidekick, 70 Coke, went to the back of the room where the AV people were, and that gave enough time for the 70 to give a hand signal to the people at the front of the room to make sure that they're all standing. And so the leaders, the 70 themselves, instructed them that they're supposed to stand for the apostle as he enters the room. And then after a sufficient amount of time passes, the apostle then can go to the front of the room and, have everything be in order because all the members are standing. And again, you have to ask yourself, is this something that members do just of their own volition, or is this something that the members are taught that that is what they're supposed to do by the leaders themselves? Now, Elder Stevenson is an apostle, but he used to be a 70. Elder Coke is a 70. And if you look at all the apostles now, they were 70s. They used to be in the position that Elder Coke is in now, where they would go at the heels of an apostle on all of their visits, and they would prep the crowd. They would make sure that the proper decorum was followed. And that's exactly what we saw here. And you might say, well, this is just overreaching. You're reading too much into it. The 70s are not instructing members on how to show deference by standing or doing other things like that. That's just ridiculous. Well, something else happened in this meeting that shows you exactly how this is the model that is followed, and that is that the leaders at a lower level instruct the members on how to show proper deference to higher level leaders. And that happened later in the priesthood session. Take a look at this.
Moderator for the questions, so you will raise your hands. I will choose one of you. You will pose the questions, and then
Izao
Elder
no
Stevenson
lasa
will guide here.
mpandamina anio dia nangatanana nareo dia izany manendro hoe iza no hiteny. Efa hitanareo fa nasoroko ny palitaoko. Raha tianareo atao dia azonareo atao ihany koa izany.
Now, this is a couple of hours into the session, and you can see that the apostle is about to take questions. But he does something when he sits down. He takes off his jacket, and he mentions to the audience that he's taking off his jacket, and they are welcome to as well. And then we're going to see what happens when Elder Koch steps in and instructs the members in the audience about exactly what that means and what the expectation is.
Elder Stevenson said it gently, but we always take our jackets off when the presiding authority does it. Okay?
Rehefa ny manam-pahefana piay no manala ny palitaony dia manala daholo.
Now, if you watch this whole session, you learn very quickly that Elder Koch is kind of like the bad cop to Elder Stevenson's good cop. He's the one who tells them what they're not doing correctly, what they need to do better, and he does it very seriously, and there's very little humor in his discourse. And there's no question but that he's very serious here. Now, I think we get to see a side of Elder Stevenson that is actually good, where he's kind of downplaying it, and he's saying, you'll see in just a moment, he says, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to worry about it. But when I first posted this video, I had a number of people write back. This is exactly what they were instructed in the mission field, at the MTC, in different conferences, is that when the presiding authority takes off their jacket, you take off your jacket. And before the presiding authority takes off his jacket, you do not take off your jacket. This is part of what is called the unspoken order of things within Mormonism. Now remember, this is not something that the members are doing just of their own free will to show respect. This is something that they are being instructed on the way things are from other leaders themselves. Now, generally, it's going to be a leader in a step down from the highest authority leader that's present. That way, they're able to not have the appearance of imposing a level of deference on the members that would be embarrassing. And so that gives Elder Stevenson kind of the room to play it off a little bit there. And I get the sense he's not as much into this hero worship as some of the other apostles. But this little exchange really informs us what this is all about.
It's really okay. Your choice.
So yes, when the prophet enters, members of the church stand. And they do it of their own free will because it's not asked of them, but that's because they've been trained their entire lives. At all of these conferences, missionaries that went through the MTC, they have been indoctrinated with the unspoken order of things. And certainly, as we can see here, they've been given reasons that they show this seemingly spontaneous act, but it's very much something that the leaders have inculcated into the minds of the members so that this is the way that they show deference. And frankly, that's fine. You know, you can find other examples of this in the military, for example. But the question is, Mormonism purports to be a Christian organization. And if they're doing this, then you kind of have to ask yourself, wait a second, is this the type of thing that Christ would have advocated that his disciples or his apostles do to him? Or is this the sort of thing that Christ would have been critical of the Pharisees for expecting members of that day to do to them? That's the real thought-provoking thing about all of this.